It's 5:30 a.m. Let's begin.
What is up, everybody? It is your favorite fantasy football crew, Fantasy First Rounders Live. As always, with me, we have the real Ryan Hicks over here, and finally back with us. We're happy to have him back. Billy the Dragon making his comeback here.
What's up, guys?
Let's roll, guys. Let's roll.
Yeah.
Hey, we got plenty to cover. Billy, we got to get you back in the swing here. But before we get into this week's games, we're almost halfway through the season. Ryan, give him a quick update on St. Jude Bowl.
All right, guys, we're going to run through division leaders and high point for the week. Peyton Manning division, Splani 11 in first, and lineup showdown. Shout out to him. I'm in his lineup showdown challenge. It's like DFS per se. You only get to use one guy each week, and then that guy can't be used again for the rest of the year. I was in first place last week, and he got first place in this division this week. So that's pretty exciting. Moving to Reggie Wayne, we have FFL Guru in first, and then Antonio Denisi, FF at 170.74, which is almost a high score. Sorry, but not a high score. CEH, Muff Daddy in first place. And then high score, we have Falcon Griff 24, which was the weekly high score of 176.54, which is the highest score of all divisions. Moving on, Luke Jokel, we have G to Jesus and New York Wolfpack in first in this one. And then high point this week was A Dion 802. Then we move on to Nuke, FF Peacock, Josh Allen and a day's work. He's in first place in that one. Nicely done, Miles. And then high point this week was Rough Riders, my cousin Carrie, that's her fourth high point out of 7 weeks. That's pretty impressive, Carrie. She's 4-3. So she has to score the most to win. If she doesn't score the most, she loses every week. Moving to Von Miller, Jay Millard in first. He was his team name is Bearded Ginges, and he was also high score this week. Then we have Famous Jameis, Queen Bees, Bryn Pinto in first place in that division, kicking butt, taking names. And then for high score this week, we have J Moolah 3. Super Mariota, we have the high point of the entire tournament so far, AWH 6172, team name Monkey Fighting Snakes. And then high point for the week goes to Smoke Wagons. Saquad, CP Bravo 11 in first place, still undefeated. Also, AWH is still undefeated. Those are the two teams that we have that are undefeated. And then the high point this week for Saquads was Brehijo. 50% completion hurts is his team name. I figured you'd love that, Tom. Killer Kyler, Mario, Dak Attack 956, first place in that division. And then Edgeheads was the high point of that division. So there's all of our divisions, leaders, and high scores. Guys, exciting. I'm on a 3-game win streak. Billy, I think you're qualified for the playoffs currently. Yep, you are.
Yeah, baby.
And Tom, you had a bad week this week, but you were high point just a week or two ago. So you're having a sporadic back-to-back weeks.
I got beat up this week. I always say injuries have been killing me this year, and it seems like every league. But that's okay. We make do. We're gonna still make the best of it, right?
Oh yeah, I'm getting in the playoffs.
But good news is we got some good matchups here this week. The first one of the week would have been incredible. It's still probably going to be pretty good, but there's a couple players that I think we're going to be missing here. We're talking about the Packers 6-1 going into Arizona, playing the Cardinals, who are undefeated at 7-0. Cardinals favored by 6.5 points, over under of 50 points. Personally, I'm taking the Cardinals and the under, right? Biggest reason for that is going to be Devontae Adams, Allen Lazard, both on the COVID-19 list. So you're looking at Randall Cobb, Equinemius St. Brown, Amari Rogers, Robert Tonyan, and the backfield. That's about it for the Packers, right? I don't know if I personally trust Randall Cobb to still be a number one guy, and Equinemius St. Brown. He and his brother, I love Amon-Ra. Equinemius, a good player as well, but again, just not a number one guy. And going up against this Cardinals defense, it's going to be tough, even though they're missing a few players, if I'm not mistaken, as well. I don't know if I saw J.J. Watt is not going to be playing, I think, as well as maybe one or two others. This is a game that's definitely, really reeling from injuries and COVID. But I think that it's going to be tough to stop that, Arizona offense, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, A.J. Green, of course, adding Zach Ertz in there, Chase Edmonds, James Conner, and Killer Kyler, K1, Chris Pinto's QB1. I know that much. I just think that at the end of the day, Arizona is probably going to get ahead here. Green Bay going to try and keep up, but I don't know if they have the firepower to do it this week. I'd love to see, a big week out of the running backs for Green Bay with so few receivers. So hopefully that means a lot of receptions for Aaron Jones and maybe some extra rushes for A.J. Dillon. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm hoping for because I have a little bit of some A.J. Dillon shares in some deeper leagues. What about you guys?
Man, I'm the only one I'm going opposite of the two of you. I'm going Green Bay. I'm going over. And I'll take the Green Bay money line as well, not the spread, because I have this Devonta Adams theory that I was explaining a little bit to y'all before the show, that he demands a certain amount of targets and Rodgers has basically an obligation to get them to him. When he doesn't have a guy like Devonta Adams, and don't get me wrong, you want the guy like Devonta Adams on your team, but when he's not there, and there's one name, MVS is coming back off the IR this week, and that guy has proven in the past on occasion to be able to be capable enough to handle wide receiver one duties, at the very least share them with Cobb. Tonyan is a very good tight end. I know this is not a plus matchup for him, but there's going to be a lot of stuff going down. I do expect, like you said, a high Aaron Jones catch day. He'll be a guy I really want. I expect this to be extremely high scoring. Green Bay is, after that week one debacle against New Orleans, they're on a 6-game win streak. This Arizona team, like we were saying, or you were saying specifically, Billy, they've been blowing some people out, but they've also had some close calls and some lucky little rolls go their way. I think they're a vulnerable 7-0 team, and I think getting that 0 off their back might be good for them long-term, because the longer it goes, the more pressure they're going to be under. It's a pretty young team. I mean, I know that Kyler's playing like a vet, but I think that Rodgers is the difference maker here. The Green Bay defense is pretty solid. And then we also have DeAndre Hopkins, who's supposedly a game-time decision, but trending towards playing. So all of these things, the weirdness of not having Devontae and that alpha-level receiver, I think there's enough going on here with a guy like Rodgers to get Green Bay over Arizona this week and end the undefeated.
I'm with you, Tom. I'm really excited about A.J. Dillon. He's had 2 games out of the last 4 with 10-plus carries, kind of slowly finding a role in this offense. And I think just with the lack of pass catches available against Arizona, you're going to kind of want to slow Killer Kyler and the gang down. So I don't see why they wouldn't go in there with the game plan of Aaron Jones. Only 6 carries last week. Obviously, they thought they might need him for this Arizona matchup. That light work coming in, want to keep him healthy. So I think some A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones to the rescue Thursday night against the Cardinals. I think that's the best plan of attack. If they try to outscore the Cardinals through the air, it's just a matter of time before you start losing that battle, in my opinion. So I think they get the run game going. They're a top 2 defense against all position, against wide receivers, that being the Cardinals. So I'm not too excited to start, any Packers. But I am starting my cards, and I really like Christian Kirk in this matchup. 3 games with 5+ targets, and back-to-back games with 5+ receptions and a touchdown in each game as well. So I'll take Arizona and the under. I think Green Bay struggles. I think Arizona pulls away late. You guys got anything more there?
I will say the last 4 games Aaron Rodgers has played without Devontae Adams, he has averaged over 300 yards and over 3 TDs in those 4 games. And it's just, I think there is that weird phenomena that happened with Watson whenever he lost Hopkins, but still got better last year because he could spread the ball out more. Also, Brandon Cooks is a monster. But like losing that one alpha guy that so seriously hogs targets can open you up a little bit.
Absolutely.
Oh, and yes, Ertz, I agree. I like Ertz this week. I do expect this to be a high-scoring game. I like this whole game.
Yeah, I think this could be a pretty fun game to watch, actually. But
Agreed.
all right, so our next game, you guys, we got the Carolina Panthers kind of reeling lately, 3-4, heading into Atlanta, 3-3. Falcons favored by 3, over under a 46. Darnold also reeling lately for Carolina. I think a little bit of the trade rumors with Deshaun Watson might have gotten under his skin. Seems to have kind of been real lately that he just sharp decline in play. Heavy targets for Robbie Anderson really haven't been working out. In 3 consecutive games with under 225 passing and only 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions over that span for Darnold. So I think Robbie and DJ Moore are both worth starts against Atlanta. However, third most passing touchdowns allowed in the NFL this year. So there's an argument to be made that Matt Ryan would also be a potential start. But I just don't like the weapons that the Falcons are sporting right now against that Panther defense. But Cordero Patterson should stay in your lineup. The volume alone makes him a must-start with a nice PPR floor, even if he doesn't have a great game. He's probably going to get you a 10 or 12 spot easy, and he's having a fantastic season thus far, really historic, to be honest. But this matchup, I'll take Carolina and the under. I think it's just kind of a slow scoring day for both teams.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think this could go to the under. Good news for Carolina. The Falcons defense hasn't been the strongest this year. Definitely giving up some points here and there. Maybe a good bounce back game for Sam Darnold. Obviously, seeing the ghosts of massage therapists pass for Deshaun Watson there, thinking that might be coming to Carolina. It doesn't sound like it is. The owner coming out pretty clearly stating that Deshaun Watson is not in the future for the Carolina Panthers. So hopefully that kind of resolves things for Darnold because he looked good the first couple weeks of the year. Obviously, still missing McCaffrey. Is kind of the way it seems like it's trending. Chuba has been okay in replacement, but he's definitely not a guy that the Panthers want to have to rely on long term as their number one back. Tommy Tremble did see a little bit of a breakout the other week, starting to get involved in this offense more, somebody I'm going to keep talking about because I still think that's going to be a big player for them going forward. And we've talked about how easy it is to get into top 12 tight end kind of territory. And I think he could easily get there second half of the season. On the other hand, I think Kyle Pitts, if I'm not mistaken, is the highest yards per game out of any tight end this year. I know a lot of us had some reservations around him, and does he really live up to the expectation going into this season? I think so far he is. Definitely can't be disappointed with him. Matt Ryan definitely dealing, and Cordero Patterson seems like one of his favorite targets to do so too. So those are the 3 I'm really interested in over there. And obviously Calvin Ridley being the number 1 wide receiver there, most likely you're going to be starting him from where you drafted him. At least from what I've seen. Maybe not your wide receiver 1, but at worst, I think he's a flex play at this stage this stage in the season.
Well, if you look at Atlanta's offense lately, they've been heating up. Most of those yards for Pitts came in the last 2 games. Let's be real. He's gone absolutely nuclear. I'm wondering if the normal year plus that we have to wait for tight ends is now over for Pitts. And this is what we get to see the rest of the year because I don't really understand how you can stop it. Like watching what they're doing, if Matt Ryan can be that accurate downfield, which so far in the last 2 games, Matt Ryan has looked about as good as he's looked in a while. And that has a lot to do with the fact that he can just put it up there for Pitts and goes and get it. Like who can stay with him that can handle him physically? There's not very many humans. And that is a real problem. I think that we're now seeing all of the hype that Pitts was generating is now justified because of his performance recently. And I think he is moving ahead in an argument for the tight end 1 over Kelsey because of what his big play potential is and the fact that what in the heck is going on in Kansas City right now. Those 2 factors combined move him at tight end 1 in redraft for me right now just because that's enough for me. 2 straight games of just domination, and there was not a whole lot they could do to stop it. Like, I don't see anybody figuring out how to stop this if Matt Ryan can put the ball where he's been putting it. That being said, I also love Cordero Patterson so much, actually. He's a guy that I love the versatility, especially on sleeper, running back, wide receiver, but I love him getting him plugged into running back because that's really what he kind of is with a lot of pass catching chops. He's so outperformed Mike Davis, and Carolina's defense is salty, but that's a lot to ask of the defense to get all because unspeaking Calvin Ridley, yes, he's good, but I think that the defense can handle just him. But Pitts is not really can't deal with him, and Patterson is a nightmare for matchupping or for anybody to match up with as well. And that's going to continue even against this good defense. On the other side, Darnold needs CMC bad. He sucks without him. I mean, let's just go there. That being said, I do like DJ Moore a lot this week just because Atlanta's defense is terrible, especially against the pass. And so this could be a bounce back week for Darnold. Even in the loss, I'm going to take Atlanta and over. That's 2 in a row, Billy. We've been completely reversed.
That's okay.
I know, but it makes
back
me
to normal pretty quick. Right?
It makes me worried.
Yeah.
So, real quick question around Pitts and who he's matching up against. Do we think it might be a guy like Jeremy Chin that we're seeing up against him one-on-one?
Good luck, dude. Good luck.
I mean, hey, Jeremy Chin.
Anybody who tries.
To me, it seems like it's Chin or maybe Shaq Thompson are probably your best bets. I think Chin has the athleticism. Thompson maybe a little closer to the size. Still not as big as Pitts, if I'm not mistaken. But you're definitely right. It's still a matchup nightmare either way. But
I don't think there's
probably a
team
little more
in the
interesting than
NFL.
some teams.
I don't think there's a team in the NFL that has something to stop him right now.
Isaiah Simmons maybe the closest on paper.
Yeah, do what? I mean, I think Ramsey would have his hands full. Like, I don't understand what you're supposed to do. He's way too big for Ramsey. Ramsey's a big dude, and Pitts is a lot bigger than him. And
Isaiah Simmons on paper.
Yeah, perhaps, but good luck trying to stay with that gazelle, man. Like, again, I do love Isaiah Simmons, but God, good luck, man. I think what we're seeing now is just what's going to happen from here moving forward. Good luck.
I agree. And I'm with Scott Davis here. I really like Cordero Patterson. This dude's balling out.
Man.
I wasn't sure, at the beginning, I really didn't like him being the Falcons' answer with the offense we were assuming would be taken down there from Tennessee. Then the first time you get a look at the usage and you're like, you know what? That works for Cordero Patterson. And man, he has flourished down there in Atlanta.
Yeah. Been just a fantastic, one of the best running backs in the league right now.
Running back or receiver on sleeper. It's beautiful.
Yep. That moves us to the next blowout game that we have. Buffalo, Miami. Buffalo favored by 13.5. That is not enough. And the over-under is 49.5. I'm going to go the over because I'm expecting Buffalo to get into the 40s by themselves. And Tua will inevitably get trash numbers that happened last week. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care that he had a good fantasy week last week. Tua Tagovailoa is not the answer. It is so clear to me. They're going to get obliterated. Buffalo came off an embarrassing loss to Tennessee. They were not expected to lose that game. I would not want to be playing them this week, no matter who I am. Miami is just going to get run over. 13.5 this is the most comfortable spread for me at 13.5, which is mind-boggling. For Buffalo, Josh Allen is going to go absolutely bonkers if he's a consideration for me in DFS. Knox is out, and that's so sad because, man, that guy is good. But he should be back pretty quick. He's already 1 week down with the bye. That means that Stephon Diggs is likely, and then timeout, Gabe Davis might be getting some of those knock looks with his size. But it's Beasley and Sanders. Like, you can tap into any of these guys this week. They're all probably going to score. It's going to be bad. On the other side of the ball, the only person I'm playing is Mike Gesicki because he's an indomitable beast, and there's no reason to ever bench him. He's that good. This is the number 3 tight end and sleeper on the St. Jude Bowl scoring format. I showed y'all that screenshot today with the lowest snap percentage of any of the big guys. And the game one with Tua, where he was totally ignored, not even a catch. And he still happens to be number 3 tight end. The volume right now is off the charts. I don't see why that changes. So I am confidently starting Gesicki and confidently starting nobody else for Miami. Buffalo's defense got embarrassed last week too. I'm expecting them to put the clamps down.
Yeah, I'm no Dolphins for me either, but the places I do have Gesicki, it's really hard to sit him unless you've got like a Dalton Schultz, maybe a Goddard with the right matchup. These are all guys that are really performing well, but maybe you're mixing matching weeks, and Gesicki's kind of growing out of that even kind of in front of our eyes a little bit. Ryan, you were a year ahead on both him and Dawson Knox. Both of these guys are huge stars, and Dawson Knox is really turning into what we really talked about a lot last year privately, the athlete that this guy is. Now you're seeing it being put into football, and man, the guy's damn good. It is a lot of fun to watch, but So I'm avoiding all Dolphins too. Tua, all of them included. I'm not really hip on the Dolphins anyhow. However, this matchup is extraordinarily bad for them. Now, Buffalo defense is really, really stout. They're near the bottom of the league in every category as far as fantasy points allowed against all positions. The Dolphins defense definitely doesn't resemble much of what they had last year that pushed them nearly into the playoffs. And, they've really been pretty damn poor, to be honest. So start all of your Bills. The Dolphins are a sieve on defense. And this one's simple. Emmanuel Sanders, to me, is quietly becoming a league-winning piece on your bench. This guy needs to be on your roster. If he's not on a roster in your league, find somebody to cut for this guy because it's only going to get better. He's doing things for Josh Allen that nobody else really has the ability to do. And really, Emmanuel Sanders is that guy that everybody brings in when they're trying to make a run. It's not a mistake that he ends up on really good teams all the time. This guy's a really awesome player. Age, injury history, I don't care. He's a savvy route runner and finds spots to sit when Josh Allen gets in trouble. And go look at his numbers. You'll be very surprised. So add him, start him this week as well. Buffalo and over for me. This one won't be much to watch.
We're back on track.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, it's Buffalo in the over. I think this is a pretty clear-cut one. And it's really just because Buffalo is going to put up, like you said, Ryan, 40-plus points, I think, or high 30s at the very least. There's not a lot you guys haven't said. Kind of the biggest thing I just wanted to point out. So we're talking about how Tua is just having a tough time out there, right? We just don't trust him. I was kind of amazed to look at his stats because he's actually been fairly efficient as far as his accuracy is concerned this year, which is a big step up. Yeah, I think last year we had some questions around it because he makes errant throws. But I think that the errant throws, I'm not saying that he's a good quarterback here, but the errant throws make it seem worse than it really is, right? When he's off by a mile. Because when you look at the actual numbers, he's completing 69.5% of his passes this year. Though he has four. Yep.
Or I'll go ahead and when you're done, I'll address that.
Yeah. I was going to say he does have 4 interceptions to only 7 touchdowns, which is one of the reasons from a fantasy perspective that's not ideal, right? You need more touchdowns and less interceptions for a ratio there. But the other surprising thing was his on-target percentage is over 83%. He does have a 6% drop rate, which is a little bit higher for a lot of quarterbacks in the league. So again, I'm not saying that he's good from these stats, and I still don't have faith in him. I don't think he's a long-term option there, but it's just kind of surprising compared to what I've seen looking at, the film, I guess.
I'm going to come right out and say it. I don't believe those on-target numbers. I've watched a lot of Tua. I don't see what they're saying. Unless you count all of the on-target little dinker-dunkers he's been throwing to Waddle lately that he takes the distance. Like, he is not – I've seen Gesicki have to reach way out. Not necessarily bad throws, don't get me wrong. But Gesicki, at all of his frame, is completely extended. Like, that's a big window, and he's not hitting it. It's not like Gesicki needed to go up that high to get the pass on these passes I'm talking about. Like, he's not putting the ball in positions that I think give his guys better opportunities to make plays, unless we're talking about the dinking and dunking behind the line of scrimmage and the little slants where Waddle just can use his incredible athleticism. Or same with Gesicki, can just get bigger than the guy. Like, it's not – I don't like at all what I'm seeing.
I agree.
I think that these completion percentage numbers are his numbers look good, per se. And I don't like that because when I watch him, it's
the same thing.
I don't like what's happening with this offense. They don't go downfield. Like, Waddle could be really, really effective in a Ruggs, Marquise Brown type of a role he could play as well, because that's the kind of speed he has. Like, Tua can't hit him doing that. He just can't.
Scott,
I don't think Tua needs a new team.
Yeah, they need a new quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think he and Hurts are very similar in the way that they're this year, when you look at their stats, and I think you're right, Ryan, you nailed it. There's a couple quarterbacks that are hitting these dink and dunk screen plays that are technically passes, right? Yeah. Ryan is big mad about Tua.
Yeah,
he's mad about Hurts. They're the same player.
He's killing me, man. I love the Dolphin skill position players. It's frustrating.
Yeah. By the way, his here we go. Hang on. His intended air yards per attempt is 7.4 yards.
Yeah, it's actually lower than last year.
Yeah, by a tenth of a yard, but it is
Yeah.
lower. So it just tells you they're bringing the ball. Every pass is closer to the line of scrimmage. They're not putting the ball downfield. So it's tough to say that that's advantageous. I will say it is better than Hurts. Or actually, sorry, Hurts is 8.5. His completed air yards are terrible.
And
but
timeout though, Hurts adds another element to the ground game,
running the ball, and Tua doesn't really have
that's
that
why
ability.
I like him better. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, who's better, Tua or Goff?
Tua or Goff?
That
in a
is
vacuum, Goff.
interesting. I would agree if you
But
put
not
them
by
in the
a
exact
lot.
same. I think if you put them in the exact same system, I think Goff just has a little more experience because I think they're actually pretty similar. Scott, I think that's a pretty good who's better because I see a lot of similarities. Like in the right system with the right weapons with the right offensive coordinator, like Goff had with McVay, you can get some nice numbers. Tua doesn't have that. And I think that if you really have these, the talent that I think Gesicki is, that Waddle is, you need to give him somebody real. Like the Watson thing, for sure, makes sense if I'm Miami. I don't care about the legal things. Kareem Hunt still plays. So does Tyreek Hill. Greg Hardy still played. Like he may get suspended,
Ray
take the
Lewis.
suspension, and then you go. Yeah, I mean it's happened over and over.
Here's
So
my
you
thing
take the risk.
with the Tua and the Goff conversation. I think at a certain point there's an intellectual ceiling on what you're able to do with Tua, and I'm not sure you have that issue with Jared Goff. Now, physical, athletically, Tua is a way better athlete. However, if I'm trying to run my system all the way to the back of this playbook, Tua is not the guy that's going to handle a big old thick playbook from like something in Detroit coming out of Sean Payton's office. That kind of offense, I think Tua is very, very limited. And so in that front, I'll take Goff just as the ability where I don't feel like I'm that limited. I think he can pick up about anything you're coaching. If he got along with McVay as long as they did, it's because Jared Goff's not a dumb football player.
And
To be
keep
fair,
in mind
though-
as well,
Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, keep in mind you had Goff went to the Super Bowl, albeit carried by a strong defense, right? But
Yeah.
were
For
we
a very,
complaining
very,
about?
very potent offense that he
I was
was
going to say
dishing.
we weren't complaining about the offense last year. Tua carried by a strong defense. We were complaining about the offense, albeit he was a rookie. I get that, but I think that
there
there's
could be an
still something to
argument.
be said.
There could be an argument because apparently, and I don't know how true this is, but this apparently is something that happened, is that they had to use all of the mic time to walk Goff through what he was supposed to do progression-wise. Apparently, that's why the offense is moving so much faster under Stafford because he understands all the concepts, and Goff McVay got frustrated with having to – I mean – it does look like he zones in on his first reads a lot still, and that's why the running backs and tight ends are getting so many balls. And Dan Campbell did call him out, and I think that probably has something to do with that he's not seeing the advanced parts of the defenses that he needs to be that kind of a quarterback. Now, again, no guarantees that that's true, but that would make a lot of sense to me why they were so excited, because if you like Goff, you don't go get Stafford.
One more Goff point for me. We had none of these questions when Todd Gurley was in that offense.
That's very true. Very true.
Well,
Look,
we're going to take that on to we're going to take that into our next game here. Kind of a snooze fest when you look at the over-under here. So San Francisco 49ers 2-4, favored by 4 points over the Chicago Bears, who are 3-4. Over under 39.5. I think I'd take the under on this one. And I think I'd take the Niners. Really, the main reason is the Bears have looked putrid. And I don't think it's the fault of Justin Fields. I don't think it's the fault of Cole Kmet, Allen Robinson, Darnell Money with 2 O's, any of these guys, right? They have a joke of a coach. We thought Adam, he who must not be named, was bad for the Jets last year.
Whoa.
I know.
Easy.
I know.
Easy.
I know.
Hey, Chicago's won 3 games, dude. Take it easy.
But think about it this way. What? I'm not even going to talk about this game so much. I'm not really starting anybody on Chicago and the 49ers. I mean, if you don't know who to start from the 49ers at this point,
Debo.
Yeah, Debo, and that's about it. I'm not even
Debo's
starting
so
Jimmy Garoppolo this week. I'm not starting any of the running backs, really. It's Debo. That's it. That's the only person I want from this matchup. But I have to ask, just theoretically, how bad was this team really? Or was it Matt Nagy, or was it Mitch Trubisky?
Dude.
because
yeah.
Mitch Trubisky carried that team to the playoffs.
You
under
wonder.
the same
man,
coaching
Mitch
staff.
Trubisky got to beat the brakes off the Bears in that Week 4 preseason game. That was a very entertaining afternoon if you got a chance to watch that. And I think he answered some questions. It might just be a coaching issue in Chicago.
I think so. I think
Yep.
that he is a much better quarterback than a lot of people gave him credit for. And I'll tell you what, if I'm Miami and this whole Deshaun Watson thing doesn't work out, or if I'm Washington and I want a quarterback next year, I'd probably give the Bills a call and try and get Mitch Trubisky.
Gardner
The Bills
Minshew.
signed Trubisky for two reasons. One, he's a poor man's Josh Allen. And number
Yeah.
two, somebody's sending a draft pick for him in the very near future.
Agreed. And for
Bears should
this
probably do
particular-
it once they fire their coach.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think Fields has high upside. I can see the upside there.
He does. I'm
Um,
messing with it. But
For me, I will go San Fran and I'll go the over just because 39.5 is so low. And even though these defenses, like on paper, they look good, they haven't been that good this year. So on the other side of the ball, Khalil Herbert has been impressive. I don't know if this is the week because I think they might get behind because Debo is going to score twice in the first half. So I'm really not sure who it's going to be for Chicago this week. I'm kind of avoiding this game outside of Debo, like you said, Tom. But I'll take San Fran and then the over.
Yeah, both of these teams are fairly giving to the quarterback position. Jimmy G starting for San Francisco. So Debo is in for a big day, in my opinion. I'm with you guys. There's really playing out of his mind this year. Really kind of, supplanted some of that rookie season that we didn't get a lot to see much of in that second year because of that foot injury. That, he is who we thought he was. And it's pretty nice to see this guy's a man-child out there ripping the ball away from people. He's awesome. And it'd be nice to see Allen Robinson have a nice day. Hasn't done a whole lot this year, stranded there in Chicago, unfortunately. This guy just cannot avoid teams that are on the verge of rebuilds, unfortunately. One of the league's most talented wide receivers. And, man, he just gets stuck in some situations. But somebody please go trade for A-Rob in the next handful of days. Somebody. Rescue him from Chicago. And I'm in on Khalil Herbert, Ryan. 3 consecutive games with 75-plus yards rushing, filling in nicely for David Montgomery in his absence, when really we thought Damien Williams would be the guy. But he still got that 18-carry game that first week when Damien Williams was still on the field after Montgomery got hurt. So I like what I see out of the kid. He's a very good player, a kid that's probably going to still get some reps down the stretch. But also, this game may not be that interesting. Like Scott Davis said, this game is a dumpster fire, and it looks every bit of it. Over under 39.5 tells you what Vegas thinks. That's a dumpster fire, folks. Under 40 points is not a lot of points. And I'm still taking San Fran in the under in this one. I just think they're the better team. I like what I'm seeing out of Fields. I think the kid's getting better every week. But, man, that offense is just abysmal. It is hard to watch. Hard to watch right now without David Montgomery, that's for sure.
Well, I can't wait for him to get back.
Me either.
if
so
Matt
many
Nagy
Montgomery
doesn't get
tears.
fired, I might riot.
Matt Nagy has to get fired after this season. He's going to roll through 2 quarterbacks now and not have much success. Allen Robinson's been there for how many years and hasn't done really anything special. And now they're fighting over contract and franchise tag stuff. It's just a mess, really. It's a lot bigger disaster when you start peeling back some layers, that's for sure. Next game we got, you guys, a big one for the AFC North. The 3-3 Steelers visiting the 4-3 Cleveland Browns. Browns favored by 3.5. Over under a 42.5. That's kind of a funny number to me with these offenses, but big game in the AFC North, like I said. Pittsburgh fighting to stay relevant. Cleveland trying to stay afloat without Baker. And Cleveland's defense is tough against the running back position, but it won't matter for me against Naji. The volume's unreal. He's catching, 8-10 balls a game. It's been unbelievable lately. Just the volume he's receiving. And he's 3/4 of the Steelers' offense, honestly, and I don't see that changing. Deontay's a must-start also. Cleveland on the 10th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. And Deontay's had fewer than 15 points in only one game this year. That was week 1. 28 targets in his last 3 games. And really, one of those was an injury-short night where he only had 2 targets, blanketed by 2 13-target nights. So he's definitely getting the volume that you want to have in your lineup. The Browns aren't an attractive option for fantasy help this week, but you can't sit Chubb, like Scott Davis said, if he plays. I like him in this matchup, and I kind of think they held him out that last week or so to make sure he was good to go for this game. You got to have him if you're going to beat the Steelers. So I think that was more of a strategic thing for them. I think he'll be good to go, and he will probably get the entire workload. Kareem Hunt missing time with that calf injury. I don't see D'Ernest Johnson taking Kareem Hunt's role, people. It's not going to happen. He's a good player in that scenario when he gets to play and gets the ball. There's no reason to play him other than spelling Nick Chubb. Big night for Nick Chubb, big volume. He might do something special. But I'm going to take Pittsburgh in the over. I think ultimately too many injuries for the Browns on offense. I think they could get outran a little bit if it gets funky late.
So I will say I saw that Baker practiced today, if I'm not mistaken, and is not ruling out playing. I mean, that's a tough son of a bitch if he goes and plays through, what is it, a separated shoulder and a broken shoulder?
Yeah, and he's got like
Probably
a torn labrum and stuff like that, too. I mean, he's real banged up, man.
He is broken, like just fully.
He needs to sit. He needs to sit.
Yeah, if he does play, I'll be more concerned about anybody on the Browns. I'll say that much.
If he plays, the Steelers are going to blitz, and he's not going to play for long.
Exactly. Case Keenum's a serviceable backup, and I would much rather have him play than have Baker go out there for 3 drives and then just get pounded into the soil by TJ Watt. But with, assuming Case Keenum's in, Nick Chubb, that's, I love that. They're going to pound the ball with Nick Chubb so that they can set up Case Keenum for some easy passes. The thing that pissed me off more than anything, though, last week was Donovan Peoples-Jones getting listed as inactive after the roster's locked.
Screwed me in so many places. Tom is unreal.
I think I had 6 or 7 leagues that I had DPJ in.
Too. It was my anniversary. It was my anniversary last week on Thursday.
But hey, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, you can't even get him out. It was already locked before they announced he wasn't playing.
That makes me feel a little bit better because I almost yelled at my wife.
I was very, very upset.
Ryan's over here about to get a divorce over Donovan Peoples-Jones.
I was not happy. I'm like, I missed this. How did you? It was in that Eliminator League, the Guillotine League. We're in, Billy.
Yep.
I was like, oh God, and I had him in St. Jude Bowl, and I won both. Thank God.
I started in the St. Jude Bowl, and I lost by 5. So mad.
Yeah, Scott, we were all crying with you.
Both cried ourselves to sleep. I did too, Scott.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, though, on the other side of the ball, just one of those people that I'm, he's improved throughout the season. And I'm just hoping that it continues is Naji Harris. Season high of 20 points. That's fantastic. And I hope he continues on that trend of 20-plus point games. That's what we were all hoping for, is 300 touches this year. And it seems like they might need to do that because Ben Roethlisberger's looks like a tree stump that is just a little too tall.
Now that guy cannot move.
No.
Unbelievable.
He's like an 8-foot tree stump.
Dude,
cut it off with the roof. Najee
is like CMC. It's
incredible.
The amount of pass catching, like the pass catching chops on this guy. Is he the next Henry? No, he's the next CMC.
I was going to say, I think he's a big version of Henry, but he's humongous for a pass-catching guy.
It's incredible. He's anomalous. I was so concerned that this garbage Pittsburgh line was going to be a problem for him, and they just throw him the ball in space and let him do what he does.
Splitting him out wide. I mean, that's
the guy is unstoppable. I agree. And then Deontay, again, he's been the guy this year. So Billy, a lot of what you say, I agree with the outside of DPJ, which Tom already brought up. I'm going Cleveland in the over just because I think it's a Nick Chubb game. You don't need Baker for that. You don't need Hunt for that. All you need is Nick Chubb. Like you said, Billy, D'Ernest Johnson might get 8 total touches in the game where Chubb's going to get 30. This is a Chubb game. I'm 100% with you that they sat him last week to get him ready for this week. He can carry them by himself. This is a 2-touchdown, 200-yard game for Chubb. It's going to be scary good. I'm going to lock him into all my DFS lineups. I know that technically Pittsburgh's got a good – I don't care. He tears them up all the time. Yeah. He's single-handedly responsible for keeping them out of like first place run defense every year because he goes nuclear on them every time he plays them. So with that being said,
man, he has his biggest days against the best teams. He really does.
He does. He's an animal. I wish Pinto was here because he'd probably be rubbing in how Hunt has been basically outperforming him, but not after this week. This week, Chubb is going to even the scales and then some. This is going to be a huge game for Chubb. That's what leads me
over under 5 receptions.
For Chubb?
Yes.
That's a good over-under, Billy.
I'll take the over.
I
like 1.
Yeah.
I'll lean the over, but the only thing that I fear is he's so effective on the ground that they don't need to.
Yeah, that may be true.
Yeah.
If he averages
Well,
8 yards a carry,
put it this
that's-
way: at 5, I'll take either the push or the over.
That's what I mean. Good call on the over/under because I think
Yeah.
5 is a pretty reasonable number for 9. Scott Davis with 9. Look, that wouldn't
That would
shock
be
me,
sick.
especially if they were behind. He'll get more. I just think he's going to score on the opening drive.
When Kareem Hunt doesn't play, they throw him a few extra screen passes.
He's a good receiver.
And Chubb rips him off.
He's
he
a good
really
receiver.
Does. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, that takes us to a game we did chat about a little bit before. Philly minus 3.5 at Detroit, over under 48. I'm taking the Detroit Lions, and I think I'm going to do the under here because I don't think they're going to be a ton of scoring in this game. For Philly, again, a lot of this stuff we kind of talked about before the show. Philly needs to see. You say Hurts all day, and I understand that in DFS because
Not till
he's
the
been
fourth
getting
quarter, Scott.
Yes, he's been getting garbage stuff, and he's been padding his stats that way. So look, I'm all about Hurts in fantasy right now. I really am. Like, it makes sense, but the Eagles are in real trouble, and they're going to get beaten by Detroit this week because, again, Goff hasn't been terrible, and DeAndre Swift is the best player in this game right now. So when he's playing like he is, and then you have Hawkinson, who's just a handful, I think Detroit has been cheated out of a couple wins that they should have already had, and they're well due, and Philly has just not been impressive to me. So I like Swift this week. I always kind of like Hawk. I think you can always play him because the volume's there. And then on the other side, look, if Sanders is 100% healthy, I like him. If he's not, I like Gainwell. One of those running backs is going to get the touches this week because I don't see this getting really high scoring. I can see them trying to impose their will on each other because I don't think either quarterback has either the weapons or the ability to get downfield.
So is Miles Sanders playing or not? I thought he was missing the game.
2 to
Last
3
I'm
weeks,
doing a
bad
double
sprain.
check.
So but I still saw questionable. So there was like some sort of
still a little sliver of hope that he might play.
yes.
You know why?
think
Because
so.
they don't want to sign a third running back because they're not going to use him.
Yeah.
Oh, then
that is
Gainwell to
no
me is a
joke.
must. Gainwell is a must play.
So
That's
to me,
100%.
this is a really, really odd matchup, timing included. That Detroit being a team that a couple weeks ago we're talking about really kind of outperforming our expectations and really showing a little bit of heart, a little bit of grit that they have not had in recent memory. And then they just keep not getting a win, even against the Rams last week. Probably played them a little bit tougher than a lot of us expected. Vegas, especially with the 16.5-point spread on that game. It never looked anything close to anything like that. So it's a really, I don't know, the Lions confuse me. They seem to get it done just enough, but you can't really tell, how they're doing it because everything just looks abysmal. And Philly's really surviving in real life and fantasy on those garbage time surges that we've been talking about. And it's been abysmal between the 20s and early and mid parts of the game. Detroit played the Rams tough. Some personal things on the line I think might have been some motivation there. And if Miles Sanders misses, I think Gainwell has an enormous opportunity that they seem to prefer him over Miles Sanders anyway. So I could see him actually getting a decent workload. And really the passing game alone, he's already getting, 5, 6, 7 targets in some of these games lately, giving him a nice floor in PPR leagues. And he just seems to be gaining some momentum, that playing in the red zone, getting goal line carries. They obviously prefer him a little bit. Detroit's the 5th worst against opposing running backs. And I think this could be his coming out party if he gets that opportunity. Devontae Smith, I think, shows up in this one as well. And I'm starting Goddard in a lot of places. One of my favorite tight ends coming into the year. Really kind of just waiting on Ertz to get a new home for him to really start taking off, and he was playing just fine anyhow. So really excited for that on a lot of my lineups. But I'm avoiding any Lions that aren't Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift. No wide receivers that scare any defense much in Detroit. And Philly's bad against running backs as Detroit, number 5 and number 6 against the position. So I don't know. They're pretty soft against tight ends as well, Lions, so that's nice for Goddard. But I think Philly's in big trouble. I just don't see why they're not grooving. It doesn't make sense. And with the Flacco news and Minshew getting moved up, it seems like the coaching staff is kind of, really gearing up to kind of make a change and then see if they can't spark this offense a little bit moving forward. I like the Lions in the under, though.
I'm pretty sure Nick Sirianni is a sadist. He just loves hurting us.
I think so.
So at the end of the day, I mean, I'm taking Detroit for their first win. I think they're gonna beat Philly pretty handily, if I'm honest. Looking at what happened last week with the Raiders, the Darren Wallerless Raiders were winning 30 or 33-7 going into the fourth quarter. And then start playing a prevent defense, and the Eagles score 15 points to make it look not quite as bad at 22-33. But even so, it's just crap football. The Eagles have not played good football on either side of the ball. And the two things that they struggle with the most are guarding against the tight end and the running back. Scott Davis, congratulations last week, man. You guys deserve that win. But no, I mean, it's the two things that the Eagles can't defend against is tight ends and running backs, and that's the only two things that Detroit has. So I'd imagine Hawkinson, Swift are just going to have an absolute party out there in Detroit. Fletcher Cox says he doesn't like to stop the run. His job is to go sack the quarterback, but they're not going to use him for that. It's a mess. Nobody trusts the coach. Nobody trusts the GM. Nobody trusts the owner. I mean, players are just crapping on everybody now. It's a mess. It looks like Ben Simmons started, playing for the Eagles at this point. I mean, Jalen Hurts, you start him until he gets benched for Minshew because of the garbage time. He just runs it for 75 yards late in the game, keeps them in a little bit of check, and that's about it. Gainwell, I do like him. I think you start him because they're going to utilize him a little bit. Goddard, I think that he's going to get some touches, but that's about it. I mean, even the receivers, I just don't. I mean, probably the most consistent one, the only one I would play is Devonta Smith, just because he's getting some consistent targets. But beyond that, I don't want to touch any of them. Scott Davis, Ben Simmons might be better. I don't know. Well, you're right. Ben Simmons does pass the ball. Jalen Hurts can't do that, so might be better. But Lions, and I'll take the under on this one. And yes, love both tight ends. That's it. If there's one thing you want in this game, it's the tight ends. I think they're both going to have a game because the Detroit Lions can't really stop tight ends either. But that's going to take us into the next game, which just makes me cry a little bit. Titans going into Indy and facing Carson Wentz, an actual quarterback in the Colts. Titans 5-2, Colts 3-4, and favored by only 1 point, over under 51 points. Obviously, this is going to be a tough one for the Colts. I mean, you're going up against Derrick Henry. He is an absolute monster. I don't think anybody questions that. So at the end of the day, the biggest question here is going to be, can Carson Wentz keep up along with Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, and T.Y. Hilton? They're going to be the main guys I target here from the Colts. I mean, hey, Darius Leonard, Bobby Okereke, DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye. What do you think, Billy? They going to stop? They're going to stop him here, Derrick Henry?
I think they keep him bottled up decently. I still think he probably gets in that 85 to 110 yard range.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, aside from him, you also have, like Scott Davis said, A.J. Brown to contend with. Julio Jones is there. I mean, there's no shortage of talent on either team, really. I do think Tennessee has a slight edge, but hey, Carson Wentz has been playing good football lately. I wouldn't put it past him to keep the Colts right in this one. I'm going over. I'm going to go with my gut. I'm taking Indy.
Wow. So I'm taking Tennessee in the over. They have looked very difficult to deal with. I mean, yes, Indy's defense is good, but do we think it's better than Buffalo's? Probably not. If we had to be honest and real, Buffalo probably has the class of the defense, in my opinion, in the league right now. They really are stout, and Henry obliterated them, like made them look silly. Beat what I think most people were agreeing is like the best team along with the Cardinals and the Bills. Tennessee is on fire right now. Indy is kind of too, honestly. I think Wentz has been playing the best ball he's been playing lately. The game before, he had put them in position to win the game, and they just couldn't do it. This is going to be high scoring, but they both are going to, like for me, they're both going to run the ball. This is going to be high scoring, but it's barely going to break the over because they're both going to have their way on the ground. Just because how special. I mean, JTT is heating up too. Don't get me wrong. Like these two running backs outside Henry's, for what Henry usually does, dud last week. Henry's been the hottest thing in football. And JTT has been the hottest thing coming up in football right now. Like every week he gets better and better and better. And we saw this last year. We remember at the end of the year what JTT looked like. He started early this year, guys. So we're going to get a lot of primo. This could be the back 1 and 2 in the league, especially if Saquon and CMC can't get back and healthy. These two guys are really what I want. I am stacking Wentz, even though I think Tennessee wins. I think this is a Wentz game more than it is a Tannehill game. I see JTT catching a touchdown. Henry's going to go bonkers. AJB is going to dominate in the air. Julio is going to likely have a pretty good day as well. This should be so high scoring. If they weren't so good at running the ball, it would be incredibly high scoring. But as it is, it's still going to be a game I'm trying to get both sides in. Shout out to Carson Wentz for really, honestly, making it look like it was a smart decision. He has looked good over the last few weeks. And so has Indy. I mean, they just run into the juggernaut at the wrong time.
Yeah, I definitely see some fireworks in this matchup as well. Division rivals, the Colts are really coming alive, and really Tennessee too, after a little bit of struggle in the passing game with Julio, A.J. Brown taking a little bit to get going here. Indy allows the 4th fewest points to opposing running backs, but they can be had through the air. This game smells like another big day for AJB. Mike Pittman Jr. is really getting going and showing that he is a pretty legit wide receiver 2 option in fantasy. And I really like the way that Carson Wentz utilizes him, that big body guy. They're throwing balls, getting pass interferences, or really just jump balls that he's going to win against most corners in the NFL. Julio's due as well. Really hasn't stepped into this offense. Hasn't really been healthy. Kind of coming into his own right now, getting healthy. I think as A.J. Brown gets going, Julio's going to be a lot easier for that offense to roll through at times when they need to move the ball down the field. JTT and Henry definitely playing your guys. They've both been balling out. But in my opinion, I'm tempering a little bit of expectations just because of these two defenses are really a lot more solid up front than on the back end. I don't think either team will struggle to throw the ball. I do think they still run the ball. Both guys have days. However, I think this turns into a little bit of a shootout as these teams are way more stout up front, very familiar with each other. I'll take Indy in the over. This is a huge, huge game for the AFC South race, especially for the Colts as they got out of the gate a little bit slow here. You guys got anything else on that one? All right, next matchup, we got the Cincinnati Bengals, 5-2, really the surprise team of the year this year, favored by 10.5, which seems crazy for the Bengals to have a double-digit spread over anybody. Over under a 42 at the New York Jets, who are 1-5. Give me all the Bengals. T. Higgins, my guy, finally coming alive. 15 targets last week, only 6 receptions though, but it won't be long for him and Burrow before they get in sync. Chase is doing incredible things, but the Jets are among the best pass defenses in the NFL. Some of that's due to them being absolutely abysmal against the running backs. One of 3 teams who have allowed double-digit rushing touchdowns this year, and they are the worst from a fantasy standpoint against the running back position. Joe Mixon in for a monster afternoon, in my opinion. Likely this will be his best game of the 2021 campaign on the docket this Sunday. Play the Bengals defense if you're streaming defenses as well. Mike White will be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets. 4th-year pro out of Western Kentucky. He's going against a defense who's among the top 10 against each fantasy-relevant position. Not a good day for him. I'm taking Cincy in the over. That offense is heating up. I think they get a get-right game against the Jets here. Big day for the Bengals on their way to 6-2. And hell of a start for a team that everybody said botched the draft.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, for a team that was everyone talked about their offense, nobody talked about this Bengals defense, and it's pretty stout. I mean, Jesse Bates, Von Bell back there at safety, Eli Apple surprising us a little bit. I mean, it's not a joke. So at the end of the day, though, obviously Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, the big ones we want to talk about here, along with Joe Burrow. Tyler Boyd, I don't know. I feel like out of these 3 guys, we just haven't seen what we wanted out of all 3 all year. We thought it was going to be fireworks consistently, and it seems like it's not at times. I mean, definitely Jamar Chase is the guy, though. But the Jets, I mean, I think the best news for anybody on this team with Zach Wilson going down is for Michael Carter. I mean, I think he's going to get additional touches. Obviously, he's gotten the starting job there, so probably going to run the ball a bit. And then being that this is not a stud of a quarterback here in Mike White, I'm assuming that we're going to see some screen passes and things of that nature. Michael Carter pretty efficient with catching the ball out of the backfield. So I think he could get quite a bit of love. And I will say, even, the receiving core, Elijah Moore, definitely not a bad receiver to have out there in the screen game. So I think you could see a bit of that this week. Probably not a juggernaut of an offense, though.
Yeah, I basically agree. I'm very happy about all the Bengals this week, even though, I think that a lot of the Jets' pass defense numbers come from the fact that teams are running the ball on them with a lead. Not that they're bad pass defense. That's not what I'm trying to say, but not something that you worry about with the kind of talent that Cincy has. Jamar Chase has been a revelation. Absolutely did not see this type of production coming. I can admit that. Higgins coming back again, the 15 targets last week, like you said, Billy, that's very hopeful for me because there was such good chemistry with Higgins and Burrow last year. If they can get that back with the chemistry that already seems to be having with Chase, it looks like Boyd might be the odd man out, but that is two elite level receivers. Mixon, they're probably going to get the lead and they're probably going to pound the ball. I agree with most of what you said. On the other side of the ball, the only guy I would consider would be Corey Davis, just because honestly, that guy has that kind of big play capability and they're going to be down. So they're going to have to try to launch it deep. And Corey Davis is the guy I like the most in those kind of situations. He does seem to be the big guy that can go up and get the 50-50 balls. But, only as a cheap tournament play, I'm not that excited about him. I'll take Cincy in the over here in a game that I think is going to be pretty much a blowout because of the Mike White situation. Anything to add? Or we go to what I find to be an interesting game? This next game, I find it to be very interesting. The Rams and the Texans. Now, Tyrod is coming off the IR, but the last that I saw, it looks like Davis Mills is going to still start. I'd be a little more confident saying Houston in the over if it was Tyrod starting just because of the ground game element he has. But I'm still saying Houston in the over even if it's Mills. I think the Rams are going to be looking past Houston just like they kind of did Detroit. They didn't really end up paying the price for that, and I don't think it's going to – there's too many stars on this team. It's hard not to look past Houston. Houston's offense can put up points. The Rams can be had a bit. So I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. The Rams are going to win this, no doubt, but I think it could be a 10-point game, and that's why I like Houston with the 14.5 spread, and I like the over because I don't think the Rams can totally stop Houston in this game. Brandon Cooks gets a bit of a revenge game going down, but it's hard to know who else is going to be doing anything for Houston. So all I would play is Cooks, even though I do think that they're going to score some. On the other side, Kupp, Stafford, though I used those guys in that lineup showdown last week. The other guy is if they do get the lead, which is totally possible, Henderson and Michelle are both viable options this week just for pounding the ball towards the end of the game. But, I mean, obviously this is not going to be as close of a game, but I don't think it's 14.5, guys. Like, what do y'all think about that spread?
I think this game isn't even fair, to be honest with you. Mark Ingram just getting shipped back to the Saints. Scott Davis just said it in the chat there, too, as well. So is it David Johnson taking on this workload now? Because he's really carried it for the Texans so far. I might start Brandon Cooks if I'm needing a flex guy, but I don't have a lot of hope for Houston's offense against this Rams defense. Tyler Higbee is the start of the week for the tight end position. Houston is the worst against opposing tight ends, and they're also fifth worst against opposing quarterbacks. Stafford could break a record in Houston this week, you guys. I think Houston might score some garbage time points as the Rams pull the big dogs after lead. So I'm going to take the Rams and the over. I don't think 47.5 is that much. I think the Rams probably score high 30s themselves. And like you said, Ryan, I don't think Houston's going to get totally shut out. They don't cross midfield kind of thing. This offense has still kind of found a way to move the ball, really against everybody somehow, some way. So I'm confident that they can score 14 points and pull this over in for us as well in this game.
I can see that.
What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, you guys nailed it. Rams are probably going to score 40-plus of these points. Houston not going to get shut out, though. 20, 25 points I could see them putting up. Nothing outrageous, but they're going to move the ball a little bit at least. And asking about what running back it's going to be for Houston, to be honest, I couldn't tell you. And to be honest, I couldn't care enough to tell you just because even though they're going to move the ball, there's nobody I trust on the offense enough to necessarily start other than Brandon Cooks. I mean, Philip Lindsay or David Johnson, either one has the potential to probably be the number one guy here. But again, I just don't know who it's going to be. And maybe in a week or two, we'll have a little more confidence in it. The Rams, though, start the whole team. They're going to crush the Texans. It's not a question. But anything else on that one, guys?
I'm probably wrong. I really feel like the Rams could obliterate the Texans just thinking about it. But I do think they're going to overlook them. I think they're going to overlook them, guys.
That very well
that's very
could be
possible.
the case, yeah. I mean, why would they waste a lot of time on the Texans? They show up in the backyard, they whip the Texans, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that takes us into the next one here. We have the Patriots 3-4 going into Los Angeles. I almost said San Diego to face the Chargers, who are 4-2. Chargers favored by 5 points over under a 49. I'm taking the Chargers and I think this one's going to be close to that over under mark. I think I'm going to take the under just because I think that the Patriots defense has kind of slowed people down a bit at times this year. Not saying it's been the best, but definitely has slowed some people down. Looking at the offenses though, I mean, Justin Herbert, if I'm not mistaken, QB1 this year, right, guys? I mean, he's putting up some good numbers, and he's had a few off weeks even. So still pretty impressive there. We were talking a bit before the show. I don't want to get too deep into it, but Mike Williams, you guys are loving him, and I don't blame you for it. Jared Cook been a little bit of a surprise for me. I didn't think he'd be as relevant as he has been. I guess not really having a third receiver there kind of forced him into relevancy. Like we talked about in the preseason, Austin Eckler is more or less their third receiver. On the other side of the ball, Mac Jones playing decent football. I'm not mad at it. I think he's probably the best rookie out there performance-wise so far. I don't think that's really much of a question, but I think long-term the other guys will probably end up being a bit better, but the running back room there, a bit of a mess with some injuries going on. So Damien Harris, I guess, is probably your best bet. And that receiver, and tight end, Jacoby Myers putting up some decent numbers. I'm not mad at that, though a little bit of inconsistency. Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, I don't necessarily want them if I have other options, but I think you could have worse options. Ryan, what do you think of these guys?
Man alive. I think that whatever happened to the Chargers last week was an anomaly, and New England is catching that. There's a couple teams you just don't want to catch this week. I'd love to see like a Chargers and Titans game right now. Ooh. Or Buffalo got embarrassed to watch the Chargers and Buffalo play this week after those two embarrassing losses. Again, that just sounds like a game to me that I would just I pay money to see that. Give me everything for the Chargers. I think that what we've seen with Herbert and his development, and this is what we were kind of briefly talking about, the deep ball is for real, and Mike Williams is one of the best in the business at that. So he's legitimately a wide receiver one. And Allen remains a wide receiver one just because of his high catch. He really has one of the safest floors as far as his catching ability. I want everything. I want Eckler. I'll even take some Cook, but it's Herbert who's really going to torch up this defense. New England's going to try, but I don't think there's not much they can do with what Herbert is able to do. And this is going to be a bounce back game, like Scott said. So give me the Chargers and give me the over. Because I am impressed with Mac Jones as far as his accuracy. I got to admit. And Damien Harris is a must play, it seems like, right now.
So I'm actually on the opposite side of the coin from you guys on this one. I think the Chargers are in big trouble. Second worst against running backs, fifth worst against tight ends. That's an incredible poor matchup situation if you're going to play the New England Patriots. And Hunter Henry comes into a revenge game sporting a 4-game touchdown streak. I just don't like the mix of this for this Chargers team. As much as we talked about how good they are, this could be just a coaching situation where if they get 1 week where Herbert can't quite figure out what he's looking at until too late in the game. Eckler's another guy I'm tempering expectations for this week. Talked about, maybe Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry. Just matchup-wise, not having, the biggest path or the easiest path to a monster day. But New England always removes your scariest component of your offense. And if you're watching any Chargers football, Austin Eckler is the catalyst of everything that goes in that Chargers offense. So I really think they find a way to focus on Eckler, try to neutralize him in that Chargers offensive attack. I think this is going to be an ugly one. Pats and under in LA for me. Just a gut feel.
I get it.
All
I
right,
get it.
guys.
Like, it makes sense, but it's funny. Like, y'all both were on the under, and I was in the over, and we were both in the Chargers, and you were in the Pats. Like, it's a lot of variance going on here.
It's a funny matchup in an
Yeah.
odd time when the Patriots kind of getting hot. You don't want to overreact, but the Jets are really bad, and a whole lot of teams haven't scored 50 points on them. Very
Yeah.
odd. So next game, I think this one's a little easier than it seems on paper. Jacksonville 1-5, heading up to Seattle 2-5 right now. Really, had they had Russell Wilson, I think they definitely get that Thursday night win last week that against the Saints. 3-point favorite are the Seahawks over under 43.5. Kind of a funny number for me too. Just with the way these offenses go in Seattle, you get some funny weather. The Jags going to Seattle is an unfortunate situation for them with a mini bye week and that tough loss to New Orleans. Like I mentioned, the Jags can't stop anything. Lockett and DK in for monster days, in my opinion. And that makes Geno worth a start in a super flex spot, or maybe you got a quarterback injury, maybe you're riding Baker. Geno wouldn't be a bad guy to throw in. I'm in on J-Rob for the Jaguars out of that backfield as well. I think he's really kind of catching steam, and they really figured out that if they feed him, the offense starts to move the ball down the field a little bit. And Seattle coming in, they're the third worst against the running back position. That should keep the scoreboard working and this game kind of flowing a little bit. Seattle -3, I think is easy money. I'll take Seattle in the over in this matchup. And I don't think it's over by very much, but I think 27-21 kind of ball game here is well within question.
Yeah, I mean, Geno Smith, like we were talking about before the show, is playing some pretty decent football, especially for a backup quarterback. Somebody that is definitely serviceable. I think better than a few starters in this league, if I'm totally honest. But, I mean, the Jaguars obviously not the best team to match up against him, though they looked okay in London. Honestly, I think I'm taking the Seahawks and the under on this one. I don't think it's going to be a barn burner. They're not putting up huge points and just, throwing it everywhere. So I'm going the running backs in Seattle, and I think Trevor Lawrence, I think the issue for him that I wouldn't want to start him if I had other options is I think he'll probably throw a few picks just because I think he'll end up behind a little bit and trying to throw to keep up in this game. Even though Seattle probably not going to score a ton of points.
I am going to take the Jags. I'm going to be the lone wolf, and I'm going to go the over like Billy because I don't like these defenses mostly. So Billy kind of highlighted the reason why I'm taking the Jags. I'm just going to think that Urban Meyer knows how much in trouble he's in and how vulnerable he is with his job right now. The only way they have a chance to win is to feed James Robinson, who is an absolute animal. He's so incredible. You also have Lawrence looking better and better. I kind of look at these two teams. One of them is feeling really good about their first win of the season at 1-5, and one of them is feeling demoralized at 2-5. They don't have their starting quarterback. Carson may be back this week. I don't know about that. And if Carson comes back, I'll probably flop to Seattle because I think he's a different kind of talent level than the other backs there. But if he's not there, it's a James Robinson day. Yeah, I still like DK and Lockett. But if Jacksonville can get after Geno just a little bit, and I think they can, I don't know how Geno's going to do with that. Because, again, I agree with you guys. He's an excellent guy to have as a backup for a couple weeks when your guy's down, especially if your guy's Russell Wilson. They have some similarities. But I think Jacksonville is kind of feeling good right now. They got their first win. Robinson is going to have to be featured if Urban Meyer wants to keep his job. And I don't think Seattle is really that excited right now about anything at 2-5. There's two totally different expectations coming into this year, and Jacksonville's riding high. Then I think the Jags sneak this one out. I think they win it outright. I think they get their second win, and Seattle's in a free fall, and we might see Russell Wilson moved. Wow. That moves to honestly, if they go to 2-6 and they lose to Jacksonville, are you calling Miami?
Yeah, because they're not running down the Rams. They're not running down the Cardinals for damn sure. And the Niners are just going to get healthy.
This is not a good situation, and Wilson wanted out last year. Is he going to move? I've been seeing people chatter about this. I think it's absolutely possible if Seattle goes 2-6, and I think it's absolutely possible they do this week. I mean, they're favored by 3 and they're at home. So Vegas looks at this as an even dead
Push.
spread.
Yeah, that's a
game.
push.
That is saying something to me. And again, some of that is the mo that Jackson has going on and the negative momentum that Seattle has going on. This could be a relatively promising game for a couple guys, like you said, Lockett, DK, Rob. Those are really where I'm at. And then a guy like Marvin Jones or Laviska Shenault is going to be that fourth guy that's going to win people the DFS stuff. But which guy? Hard to know. Again, I get why y'all in Seattle, but I just feel like the Jaguars got some really good mojo going right now. If we are done talking about that one, we'll move on to the next game, which I'm not really that excited about. I'll be honest. We've got Washington at Denver -3. Again, another at Denver -3. So they are technically considered even. Over under at 44, so half a point more. I mean, Denver has a good defense, but they have been exposed many times and they haven't been healthy. Otherwise, Washington's defense is trash. I mean, what happened? I have no idea. That being
They
said,
were a dominant group last year. This year, completely the worst against the pass. And really that front seven isn't making half the impact that they were last year. Very odd regression.
It's wild. I'm going to take Denver. I think Bridgewater's kind of playing for his job right now, and I don't know that it's all necessarily his fault. They need Judy back. That really is a big thing for their team. They need to start letting Javonte be more involved rather than Melvin Gordon, because Melvin Gordon at this point looks like a supplemental back who makes 1 or 2 big plays a game. That's literally what's keeping him viable, is he made that excellent touchdown or he had that excellent catch where he showed the burners. Otherwise, Javonte's been the guy you want in this offense. On the other side of the ball, like, I almost wish they'd sit Gibson for a little bit and let him get healthy, because then I could be happy playing McKissick. I love the volume he gets when Gibson's down as it is. I think they're hurting each other. And then McLaurin is always an option. And Ricky Seals-Jones is a guy that, honestly, I would consider just if I'm concerned with like streaming tight end or something, although is he streamable anymore? A lot of people haven't picked him up. But this matchup, I'm going to go the over just because I don't think that Denver is going to be able to stop Washington that well right now either. So you might see these offenses look pretty good this week. I think Denver's just got a little more talent, especially with the health concerns with Gibson. I mean, Gibson's a game changer for them. And without him, they really have McLaurin. And that's not enough against Denver, who has Sutton, arguably Javonte Williams. Judy might be back. I mean, there's too many weapons on this offense. And the defense is superior as it is. So I'll take Denver and the over.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Ryan. Concerns starting to grow for me with Antonio Gibson. I do have a lot of shares of this guy, and I'm struggling in a lot of places, relying on him right now. I'd rather have them take 2 weeks, like you said, get him healthy and get him back. McKissick is another guy that it's like an every other week thing. Very tough deal, but if you play him on the right week, he's a surefire RB1. Another week, less than 5 points. A very difficult situation in that Washington football team backfield. I do think Terry McLaurin's a start. Obviously, you're probably starting him anyway. I just like this matchup a little bit more than most. Denver allowing the 11th most points to wide receivers. And Terry McLaurin's really a guy that this offense is relying on through the air. And you can even see Heineke's just starting to throw the ball up to him. He gets in trouble. He knows McLaurin's out there somewhere. He just sends it. So that's kind of fun. And McLaurin makes the plays most of the time. He's that kind of talent. But that's it for the Washington guys for me. I'm really trying to bench Gibson if I have another viable running back option at all. And Heineke, if you're starting him, you're in big trouble at quarterback, in my opinion. The Broncos passing attack is in for a day. Jerry Jeudy likely to be back. And I think if Jerry Judy's back, he's Jerry Jeudy. You're putting him in your lineup. He's raring to go. And I think he's really the only piece that this Broncos offense has been missing. Sutton's heating up. Fant's heating up. You mentioned Javonte Williams. I mean, this guy's starting to become a strong piece of the passing attack last week. They were targeting him. They were, moving him around, throwing him the ball, and he's thoroughly outplaying Melvin Gordon. Like you said, Ryan, Melvin Gordon is holding on by the skin of his teeth on a lucky play here or there that really kind of had the stat sheet. Because otherwise, outside of a big play or two, it's been pretty poor, honestly. So Washington's allowing the most points to quarterbacks and receivers, which is just asinine to think that would happen coming off what that defense did last year. I mean, these guys almost beat Tom Brady and the Bucs on defense alone in the playoffs. Amazing tumble. Something's very wrong right there. But start your Broncos, all of them. I like Denver and the over in this one. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, you guys nailed it. The Broncos, aside from some question marks, I think, with Teddy, but it could be worse for the rest of the team at least. I love everybody involved. I mean, Javonte Williams, you guys know that's a guy I loved coming out of college, both him and Michael Carter coming out of UNC. And you nailed it with last week, 6 catches for 32 yards, which not a massive amount of yards, but one being a touchdown, catching 85% of his balls. The worst week he had for his catch rate was 75% back in week 3. He went 3 for 4. So this is a guy that doesn't drop the ball a lot. If you give him the targets, he could become a PPR monster. I'm targeting him in any league I can because his value hasn't skyrocketed. I want to get him because I'm waiting for that dynasty value to build and for this offense to just feed him the ball along with the monsters they have at receiver. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy, assuming he's healthy, one of the best route runners in the league. Cortland Sutton playing incredible football. And Tim Patrick didn't play terribly in Jerry Jeudy's absence. So they have some guys out there. And I almost forgot one of the better tight ends in the league in Noah Fant. So I do think the benefit for these receivers is if Teddy Bridgewater does continue to struggle, he's putting up decent enough numbers that the receivers are playing okay ball. It's not killing them in fantasy, but it's ugly on the field, which is causing I think the fans and coaches out there to have some question marks around Teddy. I'm a Drew Lock guy personally, and I have quite a few leagues where I have both Teddy and Drew Lock, so I am ready if they make the switch. Teddy also has been banged up for the last few weeks, so I don't know how much of an impact that might have had. I did see him kind of hobbling out there last week, so not to make an excuse, but I will say that he didn't look like he was in the best of shape last week. Anything else on that one, though, boys?
Yeah, one quick thing on Javonte Williams I wanted to bring up with you guys. Just kind of looking at how he's being used right now, kind of in that split backfield. This smells a lot like Jonathan Taylor last year with the Colts. And if you go look at their bye week, week 11, kind of a later bye week, similar to Jonathan Taylor's situation. After that bye week, they get the Chargers twice, the Chiefs twice, the Lions, and the Raiders, and then one matchup against the Bengals. Extremely favorable schedule down the stretch and into your playoff run. Javonte Williams is a running back that you want to go acquire right now in all formats because sooner or later he's going to hit something. He's going to get going. In the backstretch of this season, I think he's going to be extremely valuable.
Couldn't agree with you more on that one. I'm all in on Javonte. But that takes us into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 6-1, going into New Orleans, facing the Saints, who are 4-2, over under a 50 points. Personally, I'll take the over, and it's mostly because I think the Bucs are going to score a bit. Again, one of those situations where they're probably putting up 30 plus. And Jameis will at least move the Saints downfield a few times and get them into scoring territory. But more importantly than Jameis moving them downfield would be Alvin Kamara moving them downfield, considering that's the RB1 in fantasy right now in PPR, right? Putting up 23.1 points per game. I mean, that's his projection for this week. I apologize. I brought up the wrong page. But still, Alvin Kamara putting up massive numbers. So all in on him. Little bit, again, inconsistent this year. He has had some off games, but it's not worth benching him. Number one, where you drafted him. Number two, the games he is on fire. Though DFS, I probably wouldn't go for him. Aside from him, I don't trust these receivers, Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway. I don't think we're far off from Michael Thomas coming back, but I still don't know how much that brings Jameis into relevance. Another guy that I personally wouldn't want to start if I don't have to at quarterback. Tom Brady and the Bucs, obviously, you know who you're starting there. It's just about everybody.
Yeah, so Tampa Bay, over. I mean, I don't expect this to be as close as 5.5. This is another easy spread for me. There's something – New Orleans really shouldn't be 4-2. I don't think they're that good. The problem is they've been really misusing Kamara. They've been giving him – he's the second leading carry guy in the NFL behind Derrick Henry. What? That is not who he is. Now, last week we saw a little bit better version, but Tampa Bay is tough to run the ball against, and they're going to have to try to use him out of the backfield. And Tampa Bay may have the linebackers to cover him. Honestly, if there's a team built to, Devontae David and Devin White, David's back, they might be able to take Kamara and make him irrelevant. And if they can do that, this entire offense just goes poo-poo. It's not good. So on the other side of the ball, give me everything. Every single thing. If Gronk's back, give me him. Evans and Godwin, no AB, so they're both extremely viable once again. And then Fournette, because they're going to be winning, they're going to pound the ball and give him to me as well. So Brady, the entire offense for Tampa Bay. And then on the other side of the ball, I don't want any of it. Just because I fear, like, if you can stop Kamara, you can stop this entire offense. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to stop Kamara, and I think they're going to be successful at it this week.
Yeah, fun matchup to me, kind of a big brother, little brother relationship between these two teams. New Orleans allowing the fourth most points to opposing wide receivers, and I'm glad because I have a ton of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I don't think you can set Fournette either right now. Like you said, Ryan, he's averaging 21.5 points per game over his last 4 games. That's a hell of a stretch. Hasn't been under 16 points during that stretch either. He is the workhorse in Tampa. His head's on straight. He's in shape and becoming a very big part of that offense very quickly. Kamara is a must-start. Should be back to his former self with Mark Ingram coming to town. I think they can plug Mark Ingram in right now into some of their more basic running plays. The guy played there a long time, had some of his best career years there. And ultimately, I don't know that a whole lot of this offense has changed. And I think they can probably get him up to speed pretty quick. Mark Ingram's a pretty good, pretty high football IQ type of guy. So I think that allows Kamara to get back to his pass catching duties. We saw that last week. He's much more potent in the passing attack than he is being a guy getting 20, 25 carries. And really, Ryan, like you said, that's not who he is. A little bit of concern if you're a Kamara owner getting into the meat of the season with the guy getting way more touches than he's really built to handle. So very, very nice to see him back, kind of being more of the passing game guy that we know and love. And also really kind of caps his value when he's not getting those targets, because that's what you're chasing with Kamara, is that high PPR upside and really just the consistency across the year for that 4 to 5, 6, 7 catches a game. So I think he's more dangerous and necessary to the passing attack, and hence why they went and got Mark Ingram. But he single-handedly beat Seattle last week. He's still pretty damn good himself. But Bucks in the over for me. I think New Orleans scores some points, but Tampa's damn good. And like you said, their defense is kind of built to handle this Saints team with no premier wide receiver. They might be in a little trouble. You guys don't have anything else to add? We got our Monday night matchup. This is a pretty fun game, in my opinion. 5-1 Dallas Cowboys, favored by 1.5, over under 55, heading north to Minnesota, who's 3-3. This is going to be a great game. I like how they match up, and two solid football teams, really. 3-3 Minnesota, they're a good team. Their defense is stout. Offensive attack is good. Dalvin Cook's been a little bit banged up. They haven't been full speed yet. However, Minnesota has a pretty solid defense, but so does Dallas' offense is really just too good to stop. I like Dalton Schultz a lot in this matchup. I think he's really kind of become that X factor in that Cowboys offense. When Dalton Schultz is involved, everything's kind of grooving. And he's a very talented guy at the tight end position with a nice floor for a guy that you drafted relatively late compared to some of these other top-notch tight ends. And I think Kirk Cousins has a top 6 day as well. Cowboys a little bit weak on the back end. Really, Thielen and Jefferson and Osborne, I think they all find pay dirt as the Vikings try to keep up with Dallas. Dallas in the over to me, though, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's tough not to lean Dallas in this one, though I think it's the over, no question, right? Minnesota not going to give up easily. Kirk Cousins, he plays good football at the end of the day. Really, my biggest surprise, though, out of this one is on the Vikings, right? Obviously, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, we already knew about them. We asked about wide receiver 3 for them. KJ Osborne is playing good football. Wide receiver 43 on the year, only 2 touchdowns, but 311 receiving yards, and not a single drop. This is a guy that he's getting an okay amount of targets, but he's starting to become more fantasy relevant in deeper leagues for a flex spot, especially against a matchup like Dallas, where I think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. They're going to, this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think he could become a guy that in DFS might be a sneaky play, or again, in those deeper leagues, you might be able to pick him up on a waiver wire and stick him in there. So definitely somebody I'm keeping my eye on. Dallas, not many ways you can go wrong. I mean, this Vikings defense it's not what we used to think of it as, at least in my opinion. I'm not overly impressed with them, and I don't think they're stopping the Cowboys this week.
Well, 2 games in a row where we have consensus. Dallas in the over for sure. Another game I want to get all my claws in. You guys have listed all the names. The one guy that I will say that I think is going to have Billy, I agree with Thielen Jefferson, but it might not be Osborne. That's the third guy. It might be Conklin. He's been really kind of turning up the Jets lately, looking like they found their tight end that they really wanted to. I think it's 70 yards in their last game, week 6. When you have to give that much attention to Thielen and Jefferson, guys like Osborne and Conklin can really get space. There really is nothing to be said here. Play every single guy in this offense, but Dallas is too much right now. Dallas is too much for almost every team. That only loss they had was to the Bucs, and that was close week 1. That was a close week 1 game. Dallas is that far away from being undefeated too. Clearly the class of the NFC East. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. I mean, you're choosing between stud A and stud B. It's really difficult right now to know which guy to play. Play them both. I totally get stacking everybody against Minnesota. It's not like Minnesota's defense is bad, but Dallas, again, like y'all said it perfectly. Dallas cannot be stopped at this moment. Minnesota you can argue the same exact thing for them. Whew, I think this is an easy over-under for me. I mean, each team should score 30-ish. Obviously, we can't guarantee that, but that is what this game is looking like, and it should be such a good Monday Night Football game, which is different from last week. Guys, we did it. Monday Night Football covered. Week 8 in the books.
We got one more with the Giants and Chiefs.
Just say we got one more.
I think I messed this up.
Come on.
And said
Oh,
Monday night,
sorry.
Sunday
You're
night.
right.
That was Sunday.
That's what
night.
happened. That
was
Sunday
my
night.
fault. That was
Ooh,
on
so
me.
we
right
got
now.
two
My
good.
bad.
We got 2 good primetime games though,
Yes,
because
we
I like
do.
this game too. We're going to the Giants and the Chiefs for the real Monday Night Football. For those of you not paying attention, gotcha. Over under is 52.5, and they favor KC by 9.5. So I'm going to put a little caveat in. If Saquon plays, I'll take the Giants and over. If Saquon doesn't play, I'll take the Chiefs and over. The Chiefs might have the worst defense in football. The Chiefs don't have the best offense in anything right now. Their offensive line has real serious problems, like devastatingly serious. And it looks like Mahomes is trying to do too much. Why the hell was that no-look pass a couple weeks ago that just floated over Kelsey's head? There was no reason for it. I think he likes to have fun. I also think his brother is a grade A douchebag who danced on Sean Taylor's jersey.
Yeah, that's
and it just makes me
all hell.
It just makes me think that Patrick Mahomes is also a douchebag. So I want the Giants to win. I'm not going to lie. But if Saquon plays, so again, I think there's this caveat. If Saquon plays, I like Daniel Jones no matter what, but everything else determines if Saquon plays. So if Saquon plays, give me a little bit of Ingram, give me the Slayton Shepherd, whichever one of those guys play, Kadarius Toney, whichever one of those guys are playing. Kansas City can't stop anybody. And if there's even the threat of the run game that Saquon brings, boy, he'll have a day against this team too. If Saquon plays, this could be the RB1 this week if he's all the way healthy, because Kansas City has no chance. None. On the other side of the ball, I mean, outside of Kelsey, and I'm serious in this, obviously Mahomes, but outside of Kelsey, I don't know that I like anything going on right now. Tyreek Hill is too sporadic. God, he'll win you the week, or he will single-handedly lose you the week. Like, it's so weird. It's like an even higher version of Tyler Lockett, where he's just so explosive and then goodbye and never see you again. Kelsey, remains consistent. At least you got to give him that. But this is a weird game that I think over. There's going to be so many points scored. Where are they going to come from? Is this the Mecole Hardman day or Byron Pringle day or DeMarcus Robinson play? How about a Blake Bell play? Like, honestly, I can see it being this kind of game where you don't know where it's coming from. But if Saquon plays, I'm leaning to the G-men because I think KC is in a free fall right now, and it's not good.
Yeah, I agree. This is a really funny matchup. Another game, just the timing's kind of weird with the Chiefs struggling like they are. The Giants kind of coming off a win against the Panthers that not a whole lot of people gave them credit that they would even be in that game, especially down some guys. So, however, the G-men might be on the schedule at the absolute worst time for the Chiefs, feeling the heat of their lack of success this season. Being sub 500 midway through the season seemed impossible for this Chiefs team. The pressure is on with the schedule coming. They got the Packers next week. They've got some big divisional matchups coming up. If the Chiefs don't get right now, they're in big trouble, especially with the G-men being decimated with injuries. I do agree with you, Ryan. He said if Saquon plays, basically it really changes your outlook on this game. And for me, it does too, because that's the one playmaker that the Chiefs defense really has no way to contain him. He might do whatever he wants as far as running the ball, catching the ball in the backfield. I mean, their best option to try to keep a guy on him is Tyrann Mathieu. And that's a Festiva getting ran over by a Mack truck if the Chiefs even try that out. So I really think the G-men could match up really poorly. And if Sterling Shepard plays, that really gives this offense a guy that they can go to all day long. The dude's getting open, playing really good football, turning into a lot of who we thought he might be coming out of Oklahoma, where he was one of the most badass wide receivers in the whole nation. So I'm really excited for him. But, man, this Giants team could match up just right to put the Chiefs in that tailspin, man. I mean, yeah, it's getting ugly now, but the Chiefs are always, if there's enough time on the clock, if there's enough weeks left, you know what I mean? They're always in the conversation. The Giants beat them this week, and the Chiefs are 3-5, and the Packers come to town next week. The Chiefs are in big trouble, and they might struggle to even get a playoff spot. That's nuts. All that money on this O-line and all those high-end talented guys, and really one of the most pathetic defenses we've seen. But with no Saquon, presuming he does not play, I'll take Kansas City in the over. But I think that 9.5, I think the Chiefs win by 10. I think it'd be 34-24, where it's really not a 10-point win, where it's a close grudge match battle where the Chiefs happen to score and separate with 2 minutes to go. Something like that. This game feels funny. Chiefs might be in big trouble.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the over. Neither defense can stop couldn't stop a rat chasing after some cheese here. It's pretty bad. But at the end of the day, I think Ryan nailed it. With Saquon, Giants. Without Saquon, Chiefs. I think it's that simple, right? The Giants
in a row.
Yeah, the Giants have a lot of talent on that team, but they need a running back to balance it out. If they are only throwing the ball, they're going to struggle, and they don't have anybody good enough behind Saquon to kind of carry that side of the team.
Yeah, I like Booker as the backup,
but
that's it.
But again, I don't think he's enough to on fantasy. I don't want Booker.
Contain Booker. You know what I mean? I think
exactly. I don't think he's good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
A guy like Saquon, even if Saquon is 75%, I don't even think he needs to be a full 100% Saquon, but enough to draw the Chiefs away from any of the other targets on this team. You know what I mean? So I think that's the deciding factor. The Chiefs are bad though, dude. And I don't even obviously the defense is worse than last year. I don't know if the defense is really that much worse, or if it's just that the offense isn't playing that well, because their defense has always been designed. Well, so here's the thing. The defense has always been designed to give up points. They're going to give up 25, 30 points a game, but the offense is going to put up 40.
Yeah, they get 2 or 3 turnovers, game over.
Exactly. That's the way they built it.
And
I don't
they're
know
leaving that
offense
defense
just
on the field an awful lot. That defense is stranded out there.
I think
Can't
that's the problem.
stop a nosebleed right now.
Their line is bad. Their O-line is bad. It's just really, really bad. And that is the real problem.
Mahomes is just trying to do too much. He's playing, he's there's definitely still those moments where it's still Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
But he's making just dumb decisions. He's throwing the ball when he shouldn't be, and it just
3 points to the Titans.
It's not worth it.
3 points to the Titans. That's unacceptable.
Yeah,
that's got to be that's got to be some sort of NFL record for the worst defense to give up the fewest points.
Absolutely. What do you think though? How many times have you seen Andy Reid kind of getting these lulls? I know it happened with the Eagles a lot, especially in the back of the Brian Westbrook days, where this offense would be abysmal for weeks. They play one game, and it just explodes, and then you can't stop him for the rest of the year. I mean, but I'm not okay. Here's my thoughts on this. One thing I want to mention: when this stuff has happened with Andy Reid before, he's always had a very capable right hand man that he can hand the play sheet to, that can go call plays, just as creative and maybe with a different level of thinking than Andy Reid. Not better, but enough that it's not what they see on film, and it gets them out of their funk. Eric Bieniemy's not a play caller, you guys. That guy's not on the Chiefs staff right now for Andy Reid to go, hey, take this for a few weeks because I'm fucking this up right now, you know? And it's really, really concerning for the Chiefs right now because this offense is very, very bad. And the defense that's shutting them down, 2 high safeties, really takes Tyreek Hill all the way out of the game. 2 high safeties. That's what everybody ran 20 years ago all day long against everybody. And the Chiefs can't find anything to even get down the field. It's a big, big problem, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not ideal for them. But that is our last game of the week. That is the Monday night game. So, real quick, tell them where they can find us. You know, anything you're working on, and of course, we'll be back next week.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Real Ryan Hicks. I do have an article written for FF Faceoff. I'm just writing. I needed a place to write, and so I'm putting my stuff up there. There's a couple good writers over there, guys I like. Aaron Schill, really nice guy, who's kind of running it over there. So I'll be getting some articles put up there, and then mostly you can find me on Sleeper. I'm always hunting waiver wires and checking out who people are picking up, and making sure my buy guys are out and anybody questionable hasn't become out and stuff. I spend most of my time on my phone on Sleeper. So if you really want to get me, that's where you get me.
Follow me on Twitter at BWIT24. I'm down to talk football anytime. You can also message our Fantasy First Rounders page with any lineup questions. Tag us too. All of us will be more than happy to give you our thoughts, our input as well throughout the week. So, yeah, find me at BWIT24. Let's talk football.
Yeah, man. And as always, at FFR Tom, feel free to follow me, watch me just die every Sunday when the Eagles play and, you know, just feel the pain with me. So, but
Tom, what are you drinking if Minshew gets on the field this Sunday?
I just got a new bottle of, I forget what kind of scotch, but it's an 18-year, real good. Haven't cracked it yet, but if the minute Minshew's on the field, that is getting cracked. And my fiance made a bet with me as soon as they traded for him. If he starts at any point this year, she's buying me a Minshew jersey.
Ooh,
so I'm
that's
into
a hell of
it.
a deal.
I'm into it. That's an easy bet for me. I said,
well, yeah.
There was no downside for me. I don't have anything if I lose. I said, okay, great. So great fiance for that one. But yeah, so as always, though, we want to thank everyone for tuning in. This has been the Fantasy First Rounders Live, and we'll see you guys next week.
Let's be the kids.